Well, it's been what seems like ages since we've talked about this subject, but it finally happened. Bellator, starting January 2022, will have 5 round main events. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. No more Douglas Lima MVP BS that we could spend half this episode ranting about because I still am upset about it. But we get 5 full rounds. So it's a completely different story. Makes sense to me. I think it's a great call. There are a couple ramifications of this. We don't know if fighters are going to be paid more. That's something that's still kind of out there. We don't know, how fighters in general feel about this right now. We haven't seen a lot of fighter feedback yet on that. But Drake, just your initial thoughts. Mine, I'm excited for this. I think this is long overdue. I think you need 5 round main events at this point. What say you?
What took so fucking long? What took so long, Bellator? Yeesh, there have been every single main event that is a non-title fight that has gone to decision in Bellator since UFC did it first. I'm like, this sucks.
Yep.
Like, I love me some Bellator, but that's just the feeling that I know that I and a lot of other people, fans who watch, feel that way. And it's hard not to, especially when a fight's good or it's close and you're like, oh, it's like, why not? Why are we not making this better? Which is 2 extra rounds. And it just makes it, that's the whole point of a main event, right? Is to make it feel different from the rest of the show, which making it 3 rounds doesn't do that. Yeah, sure, the fight that is there is generally going to be the best one, but still to add that little extra and, not only that, but it helps the fighters too, who let's say have never done that before, or if they're working their way to a title, like that's invaluable experience and not a lot of people get to. That's Pat, that's our literal biggest gripe with Zabit when he was around, is
Yep.
that guy hasn't got to do that yet. You can do that without fighting for a title and get yourself prepared for that. So it's just all around a good thing. Yes, of course, he means you need to train harder and that kind of stuff, put in more rounds in training and all that. But a lot of people actually do that already to prepare for that. So this just adds on to that more realistic simulation of it because that's exactly what it is. I'm very excited for it. It has been far too long. I think every organization should do it. And I think a lot of people feel that way as well. So this is fantastic news.
Yeah, no, it's great, and I can't, you know, name how many fights we've watched where it's a 3 rounder, it's a good fight, it's a 3 rounder, and then round three the tide kind of turns, right? Or something happens, and you wonder. Zabit is a perfect example. Like you wonder if it's a 5 round fight, is he going to actually make it all 5 rounds? Is he going to get finished, or is he going to lose by decision because there's still 2 more rounds after that? There are far too many decisions that are out there where had the fight gone an extra 2 rounds, I could say the other with semi confidence that the other fighter probably was going to win, and that it's really just like, whether it's cardio, whether it's what have you, it's a huge deal. 15 minutes is not always enough, especially for these that are climbing up the ladder and that will eventually make their way to a title fight. That's a huge part of this because, as you said, it's great for them to get the experience because that's what they'll have to do in a title fight. And it also really makes sure that the right guys are advancing to those title fights because
Right.
you don't want somebody to win 2 rounds, then look awful in round three and get the decision win, then get a title fight and you basically know how it's going to play out because had that gone an extra 10 minutes, that person wouldn't be in that spot. Their opponent would be. So for me, that's how I look at it. I think it makes all the sense of the world. I think you need to pay people more. I think that it should be not 100% sure on this because we don't have actual UFC contracts, but from the sources I have, if you're in a main event or a 5 round fight, you get paid more. That's part of the reason why you have the Diaz brothers getting in
Right.
5 round fights, things like that. I think that needs to be the case in Bellator as well because you do have to train harder. It is more wear and tear in your body, all of that. But at least for me, I'm a little bit old school because I don't think we should go all the way back to UFC one with no time limit and all that stuff. But kind of want to do that because there are fights I want to see with certain fighters where I really think they could win in rounds 6 through 8. and and Diaz brothers being one of them, right? Like, I would. Those are the only people I probably want to see in a fight that has no real time limit, just to see how long they could go. Whether it's I really think cardio would be a whole thing. But anyway, that's a whole
Don't
nother
get me
topic.
started, Pat.
Yeah, I know. That's a whole other topic. But yes, it makes all the sense in the world to move to 5 round main events here for Bellator. Now, the big question is, and it's somewhat a foregone conclusion if you've been paying attention to Bellator, but we'll ask it anyway, is January 1, 2022 comes around. What is the first Bellator non-title 5 round main event?
Well, first, do they have an event planned for New Year's Day, or is that just they just said that like January? Is that a Friday? There's no way they're gonna do a New Year's Day show.
I would hope
We'll
not.
see. That'd be great. Way to start. Great way
Yeah.
to start. So yeah, as you mentioned, Pat, it feels like a foregone conclusion. We know, barring the situation with one half of that, which is Anthony Rumble Johnson and his health and everything that's going on with him. Not really sure about it. So wishing him all the best, first of all, so that he can get back to what he wants to do in the first place. But it's going to be that Romero and Rumble Johnson will be the first one, unless again that he's not ready. Then you look at some of the other options, which I don't know really. You have to look. I feel like it would be something still higher up, a heavyweight fight, or you could do a different kind of Lima fight. It's going to be somebody. It's going to be very notable fighters who are not in a title fight. So yeah, I mean that one just makes so much sense that I'm blanking on potential other options. You could do something at bantamweight. Juan Archuleta would be a good guy to have in there, right? Against whomever. Hey, James Gallagher, you want a big step up? There you go. Let's go, Archuleta Gallagher. I don't know, Pat. What are you thinking? I mean, the obvious one is Romero Rumble.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obvious one is Romero Rumble. It's tough. I would say that honestly, I don't want them to do this, but I could see if when is Fedor versus Tim Johnson scheduled for?
It's next month.
Next month. So
not in time.
If Fedor gets past Tim Johnson, I could see them turning around and having him fight somebody right like with relatively low damage. I could easily see them wanting to do a 5-round main event with Fedor. I don't know that they actually would, but that's a big name you could throw in there and be like, hey, this is a huge thing. Beyond that, yeah, it's tough to say. You could run back Lima versus MVP. I mean, wasn't the most exciting fight, obviously, but it was close enough that rounds probably would have made a big difference. You could do
there's a Lima. Would her come back?
I was gonna say Alime versus someone in flyweight. That's not a bad call at all. You've got a couple options. Featherweight you could do. Well, no, no.
Good try.
It's featherweight. You can't do. I'm sorry. So I mean, that's kind of where we're at. There are options out there for sure, but I think the most obvious ones are your bigger names, which would be MVP versus Lima rematch. Fedor, if he comes out, like if he starches Tim Johnson, they want to turn him around quickly. And anybody with some type of name out there, I think would be pretty much a foregone conclusion of.
The problem with the Fedor one is I don't know if he'd even want to do that at this stage in his career. Right?
Probably not.
Make him fight longer.
Well, I mean, if it gets that long, let's be
right.
honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Our fights nowadays are relatively quick, but
sad.
Yeah, it's sad, but it's true. It's I think you could schedule him for a 5-rounder. I don't think it goes past round 2 at the latest.
That's why like the best option would be a lighter weight class fight, right? Like super highly skilled guys. You could do featherweight or bantamweight, as I mentioned. Put Emmanuel Sanchez in there against somebody. Doesn't matter. That's not going to happen. He just came off a loss, right? But shouldn't have. I'll tell you that much. So I mean, one of those fights though that guaranteed excitement, and one that maybe you're not betting on going the distance, but that those guys will keep up and make it awesome down the line. So I mean, maybe former title challengers or champions, right? Like we mentioned the Limas, something like that. So,
Or Pico.
th-
That's you could
yeah,
throw him in somewhere.
I
I
mean,
could see
his
that.
first main event. There you go. So they do have some options, and I'm sure that I'm not confident they'll do it right, but I mean, again, the clear cut option is Romero Rumble, which, in funny enough, has kind of worked out for them. The fact that we are where we are now. So, as much of a bummer as it is that we're not getting Nemkov Rumble, because that was one of my most anticipated fights of this year. So I'm very sad about that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Nemkov Rumble would have been just beautiful.
Yeah.
Maybe, or it would have been garbage, as we've
Yeah.
seen with fights that we thought were going to be exciting, like Lima MVP and Santos versus Walker, both just absolute trash fires. So, with that in mind, let us know how you feel about 5-round main events Bellator. Who do you want to see as the first fight that is 5-rounder? Who do you want to see in that main event? Give us 2 fighters, 1 fighter, whatever. And yeah, I mean, I'm just happy that we're finally getting to this point. Welcome to the show, Bellator. Proud of you. Very proud of you.